Hi there, friends. Welcome to the Eat, Pray, Run podcast. I'm your host, Dorina Lazo, Gilmore-Young, and I'm here in the studio today with my hubby and partner in crime, Shawn Young. We are excited about launching into season 4 of our podcast, and we're inviting you into some interesting conversations this season about food, faith, and fitness.
If you've listened to our Walk, Run, Soar podcast in the past, we are thrilled to have you back. And if you're new around here, welcome. You can count on the same refreshing interviews and encouraging reflections. Dorina and I are avid runners and coaches. We are passionate about our faith and sharing it.
As we launch into season 4, join us for an adventure chasing God's glory as we eat, pray, and run. Shawn and I are hosting conversations with athletes, artists, coaches, chefs, and authors about food, culture, travel, books, and faith. And you can expect a thoughtful quote, an engaging interview, and a little prayer in each episode. We are here for it, and we hope you are too. Friends, each week I like to share a reflection or an essay that I've written to help encourage your hearts. And this week we are talking about the theme of walking and running and the intersection of faith. So I thought it would be appropriate to read a section of my book, Walk, Run, Soar. And this is from chapter 32, Walking Like Jesus. Lean in with me. 1 John 2, 5-6 says, "By this we may know that we are in him. Whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked." My knee screamed every time I put weight on it. I decided to take the entire week off running and tried a new chiropractor. Dr. Sutsui found that a rolled ankle was causing stress to my left knee. He also discovered a pinched nerve in my back that had likely caused the numbness in my left foot for the past 6 months. In addition, I had a rib out of place, which explained my right shoulder pain. Needless to say, I was grateful for some pain relief. However, this meant I really had to take recovery seriously, prioritizing rest, staying off the trails on weekends, and nourishing well. Sometimes our bodies force us to prune back and rest when we put too much stress on them over time. Admittedly, I felt a little sorry for myself when all my mama friends were headed out to chase some glory in the mountains. Finally, with my doctor's blessing and strict orders to stay on flat ground, I was able to drag myself out for a slow run walk. I was bummed to go by myself, but God is always faithful to meet me in the quiet. He reminded me of the value in walking with him at his pace. There are times to sprint, there are times to press uphill, and there are times to steal away with him and rest. I didn't have to go hunting for beauty in the hills. He offered it to me throughout the sweet pink blooms right on the corner near my house. 1 John 2:6 reads, "Whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked." John wrote for the congregations in Asia Minor to remind us today to walk like Jesus walked. Jesus deliberately chose to walk shoulder to shoulder with people. He was the king, but he did not travel in a chariot or ride a majestic horse like the other kings of his time. He didn't ride around town in a Tesla or a limousine. He walked. He invited each of us to follow him. Colossians 1:10 gives us some clues about how to walk like Jesus. While imprisoned in Rome, Paul wrote this letter and prayed over the believers of the church of Colossae that they might walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. He prayed that they would be filled with wisdom and understanding of God's will, that they might be fully pleasing to God, and that they would bear fruit in every good work. He wanted them to be confident in their faith and to understand they had freedom in Christ. His love did not need to be earned. He simply wanted to link arms and walk down the dusty path with them day by day. After a horrible death on the cross, Jesus walked out of the grave, and then he eventually soared to heaven. When we believe in him and walk with him, we have freedom from the sin that weighs us down. We can enjoy regular rest in him, and we have the opportunity to soar to heaven one day to be with him for eternity. Friends, this is from chapter 32 of Walk, Run, Soar, my devotional journal that is designed specifically for walkers and runners at any pace. Thanks for listening. We are so excited to introduce some new friends to you today, Mark and Megan Lane-Holbert, and I want to share their bios, and then we're going to just jump in and get to know them better. Mark is an educational psychologist and a certified logotherapist. And we're going to ask him more about that because I'm like, what is that? When I first read it, he has training as a retreat chaplain. And in the running world, he is a USATF certified coach and Galloway Run, Walk, Run training program director. He also helps with Team 413, and he's a Christian running ambassador for them. And he's the co-founder of Recovery Camino, which is a 12-step pilgrimage along the Camino de Santiago. And he worked in and ran throughout Asia, Europe, and Latin America, and now Florida, which is where they call home. So we are super excited to learn more about Mark's story and a little bit more about Megan. You want to introduce her?
Sure. Yeah. Megan holds an MA from Wheaton in Intercultural Studies with a focus on missions. She also studied biblical archeology and Old Testament history at Jerusalem University College in the Holy Land. Therefore, she can cite a Bible verse and its context for almost any situation in life. That's good quality to have, some good knowledge to have. She's worked with international students and programs at colleges and universities across the US for nearly 2 decades and shares her hope and faith with others in all she does.
So we're so grateful to have both of you here on the Eat, Pray, Run podcast and excited to get to know a little bit more about your story. So those are your bios, but I want to know, where do you live? A little bit about your family. How do you spend your days?
We're in Tampa, Florida, and most of our days are spent with our 3-year-old daughter, who's amazing and so much life and beauty that she loves running with us. And a lot of our time is with her.
Yeah, chasing after her.
But we are a Florida family, and my wife was and still is a Disney person, so she's gotten me hooked on some Disney running as well. So we spent some time about an hour away from our home here is Orlando. We're in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, I'll confess that my love for running did start with Run Disney, and yeah, I think I did some track for 2 weeks in middle school, but that was it. And then jogging in college because I had to, but Run Disney is what solidified it for me.
Oh, I understand the allure of Run Disney. I am a huge Run Disney fan and have done many races in Orlando as well as in Anaheim, California.
That's great.
Done it Goofy, I think a couple times at least. So been out there.
You get it.
I do get it. It's understandable.
I actually haven't done any Disney races
yet.
Oh, nice.
I think we'll need to do one.
Sean has definitely converted me to the whole dynasty of Disney, and our 3 daughters love it. They love doing trips with daddy, but I still haven't actually done a race. So.
It's just so much fun to do a race where there are Disney characters out on the course cheering for you.
It's unique, isn't it? So that's part of the way that we got involved with Galloway, with Jeff Galloway and his training programs, because he's the official Run Disney coach.
Exactly.
And it's a great way to get into running for new runners and for non-traditional runners.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about the Galloway training method?
In a nutshell, it is run, walk, run. And a lot of people, one of the myths is that we can't walk when we're doing endurance running. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, most of the best ultra runners and even marathon runners take those walk breaks to improve their time and their endurance, and especially in training, because it helps you slow down and keep that heart rate in the right spot, the ideal spot. And another myth is that interval training doesn't work for everybody, but it really does. The Galloway has seen tens of thousands of runners, upwards of about 98% of people who do a Galloway training program will finish their marathon that they're set out to be. And compared to the general population, I think it's like just 1 in finish when they start a marathon training. It's really quite remarkable. It's the biggest and most successful training program in the country for marathons.
Yeah, that's amazing. 98% of marathoners who start the program stick with it all the way through.
It is incredible. I think it's the support, the kindness, the really strong community And it does really have a lot of Christian roots. Jeff is Christian, and he's been involved with Team 413 in their retreats. So he brings that charism, even though the Galloway program is not his. I think the roots of his philosophy and the way he treats people and coaches really is quite Christian service oriented.
Oh, I didn't realize that he was a Christian. I actually got to meet him, I believe, that's probably about 15 years ago. He came out to a local race here in Fresno. It's our big Two Cities run, or
oh, nice.
Maybe in Trail of Two Cities. Can't remember exactly when we used to bring out some big speakers, and he came out and spoke one of the years. And I usually serve as I've always served as the race announcer for the event.
Oh, cool.
And so I usually got to introduce whoever the big marquee speaker is each year. So yeah, it was fun to meet him.
I probably wouldn't have met Megan. That's part of our origin story without Galloway, because that's how she got into running, and that's how I first saw her, first picked up on her. She was a Disney runner in our chat, and so that's how I found her.
Another one of those running couple stories. I love it.
And his was running Anthropologist, and I was like, I studied archeology. Well, who's this guy?
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I know you have this blog, and I think even your Instagram, which is Running Anthropologist. Yes. Where did the inspiration come for that name?
It really kind of found me. We both love cultural studies and all things anthropology and archaeology. And when I was an undergrad, I studied anthropology and international relations. And we both did a lot of language stuff, and we're fortunate to do. She was in China, I was in Eastern Europe and Romania. And when I came back, I really thought, like, okay, part of my life has got to be anthropology, and part of it's got to be running. So I combined those two and said, what can I find out about, the culture of running, or about people in other cultures who are runners, and trying to pull in some of that, that magic, some of that spiritual aspect, the kinship, the unique corners of running culture.
Oh, I love how you brought your two passions together in that way.
Right. So now the Running Anthropologist, it's a blog, but you also have a podcast. Is that correct?
Every once in a while, and my wife helps me as well, we will interview someone, that really has something to share about running culture, whatever it may be, that's unique. And it's been really fun, because we get to write and we get to travel and share a little bit about the races we go to and the people we meet. As you guys know, every time you go to a race or a running group, you find someone inspiring who's done things you could only dream of. And it's great to tell their stories.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear some of those stories. I know that you have, as it says in your bio, you've run in all different places and cultures and countries. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your travels with your running?
Well, we've been very blessed. I took a position, and I was a Fulbrighter right after college, and I was stationed in Europe, in industrial part of Germany. And then after that, I served in the Peace Corps. And in both of those places, I found a running community and got to do a lot of local races, got to run the Berlin Marathon and a lot of, kind of neat international events. When I was a teacher in Korea. I also joined a local running group. So in each of those places, I tried to get to know the people that were there and what made up their running routine. Like in Korea, they would do qigong warm up before every run. In different parts of the world, they'll have different traditions and how they kind of work running into their community. I found that so fascinating and inspiring too.
I didn't really run in the other countries. I lived in hot and humid Hubei province, which prepared me for hot and humid Houston, Texas. And I would open up the door and look at the bayou, and I'd think, that's a really nice running path. I should go for a run. And it's too hot.
So you guys can probably relate to this. The biggest story that I hear from expats and people who are traveling and running is being chased by dogs, because there are so many dogs in different parts of the world.
Right.
And so I have some fun stories about that. But always carry a dog whistle or know where you're going, because that's one thing to think about.
Yeah.
That's so true.
That's a great safety tip.
We actually have gotten to run in a lot of amazing cities and countries, but probably the most, I would say, I don't know if the word is even challenging. It was fun too, but we ran in Haiti together. Yeah. My late husband and I helped to start a nonprofit organization in Haiti. And so we try to go back there every few years. And so we staged was it a 5K?
We did. Yes. We hosted a 5K race in Pion, Haiti.
The northern mountains of Haiti.
That's incredible.
And
Wow.
it was mostly kids from the orphanage that our church built that were running in it, but then some other local friends who jumped in and, just trying to help all the runners like get the water and deal with the heat, and mostly, running on like a dirt path through cactus and through all kinds of different stuff. It was quite the adventure.
Right. It's pretty low key, but we did bring some race numbers, some bib numbers that they could pin on their shirts, brought some medals out, and definitely did not have electronic timing. It was just done off
that's more challenging. Everyone wants to do electronic timing now. I help host races here in Tampa area, and it's even the little races, they all have chip timing now, which is great, but we didn't have that growing up. And the popsicle sticks.
That's pretty much what it was like.
We were relying on Shawn's race knowledge, and I think I was kind of running alongside a bunch of the kids, but I have run for years in Haiti, and it's definitely a different experience, like you said, Megan, because of the heat and the humidity, which we live in Central California. So I'm a big baby about humidity now, because I'm used to being in, like right now, this week, we've got 110, 112 for our temperatures, but it's dry heat. So it's very different from Florida and Haiti and in the Caribbean. So I have to adjust when I go to those places. It's me running a lot slower than I normally do.
That's important. In fact, as part of Galloway training, every 5 degrees, you slow your pace down about 30 seconds. Right. So if it's 80 degrees, which is about 20 degrees above 60, you're running your pace 2 minutes slower for that long run. And that's, just really useful for people to do that and see like, oh, this is what I should be doing to keep my heart rate and my training equivalent.
Yeah, definitely. The heat and the humidity adds additional stress to the body. So, I can understand the need to slow down your pace and expectations for a race in case it's hot and humid on race day. I think it's wise to reevaluate your expectations and reset them.
Yes.
Those conditions. Mark, we understand that you are a USATF certified run coach. Can you share some about that certification and how you use it?
Sure. So a lot of people will be familiar. It's the USA Track and Field Association, and they have everything from high school and college coaching all the way up to the Olympics. So if you're a USATF coach, you could be tapped for the Olympics. They haven't called me yet, but it's always a possibility. It's a really comprehensive, great training. I would recommend it to anyone, even at the high school level, even if it's not required at your school. It's a training that provides a lot about hydration, injury prevention, developing good training plans and training cycles for your athletes, as well as some really practical things like how to prevent harassment and hazing and how to respond, when you find a case of abuse by another coach or something like that. It generally takes place for, people who are currently coaching and want that extra certification. For me personally, it's helpful because when I'm working with organizing meets or organizing races, to know the rules, whether that be in track or cross country or another distance event like a marathon or a 10K or what have you. And it's also good to have references to be able to refer people to resources. So it's a great program, and I highly recommend it, along with RRCA, the Road Runners Club of America, which is great for distance running.
Well, I love that you're being able to use some of that learning in practical ways. I want to know more about Team 413. Maybe Megan, you can start us off with this one because I know you're involved.
Yeah.
Tell us about what that is.
So my first marathon was the Disney Marathon in 2013. And I joined the local Tampa Galloway group in 2012, preparing for that. And I went to the expo with my mom, who is, in her, I think at that time she was like 60 something, but she's diabetic. She doesn't walk well. Like she and my dad, who passed away 5 years ago from MS, are my inspiration of, I've got to get moving. I've got to do something, and keep moving. So anyway, my mom was there as my only supporter for my first marathon. And we walked this huge expo. And as we were on our way out, I saw a Team 413 booth. And I was like 413 as in the Philippines 413? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I was intrigued, and I stopped and talked with Chris Gillespie, who is the founder of Team 413. And at the time, he would meet with runners at the beginning of every race and pray with them and pray over them. And their ministry sells shirts, hats, and other things with Philippians 4:13 on it, and really just want to make sure that people know who Jesus Christ is and how Christ can help them through anything.
I'd like to tell people about the need for ambassadors and running chaplains out there in the field, people to meet anyone of any faith, just like Christ did. Doesn't matter what background you have or no religious background, because we're there to help you and to serve you, especially if you're suffering, especially if you're in need of someone to listen to. And Team 413 helps to do that at big races, big events, and also now local programs, including through our local Galloway program. We're starting a Team 413 group.
What a beautiful vision. I love that. And it's so true. I think that, when we're doing races, whether you're walking or running, there's a lot of opportunity to meet people, to build community. For Shawn and I, even through our coaching experiences, coaching people through half marathons and marathons, that we get to pray with them. We get to pray with them through those hard days of, the longest runs and even getting to the finish line.
Yeah.
I love being able to welcome people across the finish line, a lot of times with tears, especially if it's your first race. And, some of them have been believers and some haven't, but I think there's kind of a welcoming when you're training for something like a race.
That's right.
A little bit more open.
And so many times, the verse is printed very large font on the back of the shirt. So many times people have said, I saw your shirt. I followed you. I knew if I could just keep up with you, I could finish, It's really, really nice to hear that, to know that you've made a difference. And Chris just really wants people to get out there and share.
I do a lot of pacing, and I'll always wear the Team 413 hat or shirt if I'm able to. And a lot of times people will ask you, like, what is, and this goes for the general population too, like what is a running chaplain, or what is a chaplain in general? Because you have chaplains in retreat ministry, you have chaplains in ministry at hospitals and schools, and there are, what it means is just like the word pastor. It just means someone that's there to minister to others. That's the root of the word. And some of us in the U.S. are, some are board certified, some are ordained pastors or priests, but many chaplains are just lay people who have taken up a particular ministry and trained for that. And I think it's beautiful to have some of those people in the running world.
That's the first time I've ever heard it described that way, like a running chaplain. And it seems like that's something that you take seriously. Can you give us some examples maybe of how you've gotten to use your running chaplain hat, so to speak, as you've been out running or coaching?
One of the things specifically that we started during the pandemic is just kind of asking, like, how can we be of service even though we're not meeting in a group so much? That's kind of how Recovery Camino started for me. I'd been involved in some of the ministry of recovery community. We were kind of asking, like, I came back from pilgrimage, which I really loved the experience, and I got to volunteer with a non-denominational ministry in Santiago in Spain, working with retreat groups. And it was such life-giving and beautiful, life-changing pilgrimage experience that I said, how can we translate this into walking or walk running and getting people involved from all over? And so we settled on the term Recovery Camino, and Meghan has been really supportive and helpful in getting it organized and inviting people that are in various forms of recovery, not just from drugs and alcohol, but from in grief and trauma, whatever they're in recovery from, and helping them find a place to walk together and talk through some of those challenges, those experiences. And we do that in person, and we do that virtually too. That's one thing that we've been trying to do, and it's been really helpful for me personally, and for a few others that have taken part.
So with the Recovery Camino, are they actual trips that these people take?
We actually go and we walk various routes of the Camino or run the Camino in Spain. So we've done 2 trips so far. Well, a pilot trip and then 2 full trips with participants. Right. And both of those were also filled with virtual participants. They followed along and walked and ran with an app also. So we were about, I think, half and half. And it was great. It was really great this past year. We went in and we did the Portuguese route from Porto, Portugal, up to Santiago, Spain. And if folks are not familiar with the Camino, it is the largest Christian pilgrimage, the most popular in the world right now. And as originally Catholic, but has many, many Christians and many people of other faiths that are many seekers that go and go seeking healing along the Camino.
Right. And how long is this walk?
In our group, we do about a half marathon every day, but it really depends on the group. Some people do, like we did, just 200 kilometers was our goal. We walked for about 10 days. Oh. And you can do all the way up to 500 kilometers. So we could be gone for a whole month if we wanted to.
Sounds amazing. I have definitely looked at that trail before. It's kind of a bucket list thing. You said you've taken a few groups. Are those all people from the US or from different locations? Like, how do people get involved in this?
They find us through like online fellowships, and during the pandemic, those were very popular. So we connected with folks from Canada, from Britain, mostly English speaking, and we had a few Germans join us as well. But I would say about half from US and Canada, maybe a bit more than half, and then a few others that would join us from Europe. And it was mostly the American and North American and European folks who participated.
So amazing. Wow. I didn't even know that anything like that existed.
It is really awesome. And the Pilgrim House, shout out to them, got me thinking about how can I do ministry and do retreat ministry on Camino. They do such a great job. If you're ever on Camino, definitely visit them, and they have great resources as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for our listeners, we'll definitely include some of those links in the show notes if you want to check that out or connect with Mark about more ideas of how to get involved in those trips. So I have to ask you, with doing all these different things, how do you have time to run for yourself? Do you have any kind of like running routine or group that you meet up with on the regular?
So we're part of the Tampa Galloway group,
Okay.
And we also have our own friends who we drag along, but we typically will alternate Saturday, Sunday, and midweek runs. But lately, we've been trying to get our daughter up and go with us so we can run on the same day.
Nice.
Which is a challenge. Since she's 3
6 a.m. is early.
We're grateful for our Bob, that's for sure.
A running stroller.
I was just gonna say that jogger stroller, it had a lot of life over in our family. Yes. My oldest daughter is 16, and I'm pretty sure she like lived the first at least 5 years of her life in that thing.
Yep.
Gave it away a couple of years ago to a dear friend. I felt like I graduated. I'm happy to hear that your daughter is getting some experience running too.
She loves to run herself. She's always like, "We're going for a run. I'm going to run," and
wants to be with us.
She wants to do it. So she's been in her own couple of races. We went to Traverse City this summer, and she got first place in her heat of 4.
It was great.
And,
fantastic.
Before the pandemic, she was in a diaper dash at Disney, so she won that heat as well.
Great kids races. Our favorite places to run, of course, we love at Disney, but we also love running on Tampa Bay and on the coast. The coast is really nice here, and preferably from like September until March, April. That's the Florida running season.
Yes, the golden months. We understand that.
Yes.
If we want to run the other times of year, sometimes we have to drive to the coast, which is about a 3-hour drive.
Make it challenging here. We understand that you've read our book, Walk, Run, Soar. Could you share what was meaningful for you from the book?
We really enjoyed it. I love the biblical approach and all of the personal stories involved. I think, Dorina, your story resonated with me because my sister has also recently become a widow. And I just really appreciate the realness you brought to all of your stories. So Thank you.
It kept us going during the pandemic. It was like this one thing that we could do every Sunday. We love it that you can take notes in it.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of apps right now, and apps are great, but there's something beautiful about having tangible in your hands, running and devotional, which is just great.
And 52 weeks, it was perfect.
It was wonderful. Thank you for producing that. And we are actually, I didn't tell you this, but we are actually going to be running with this in our Team 413 running groups this year, and we're going to be using it all year. So we get to go through it.
Thank you.
We're excited.
I really appreciate hearing that. You know, when we wrote it, I mean, it was during the pandemic. It was crazy times, and it was definitely a hard time to launch a book when it came out in the fall of 2020. But now we're continuing to hear little stories of how people use it. I love that you guys shared it with each other on Sundays, and some people just go straight through for 52 days and read the devotionals, and other people do it with friends, or I've heard of people doing it online as well.
Oh yeah, online groups.
Yeah.
Well, I love that I found it through our alumni magazine. And I was like, hey, I know her.
She loves Calvin. Don't get her started on Calvin. So we didn't talk about this, but you both are Calvin grads.
Yes. Well, I didn't realize that even when we started this interview, we were talking a little bit beforehand that we had this Calvin connection. So we both went to Calvin University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it was special that they included it in the Spark magazine. So I've had a few people reach out about the book, and it's just been a great excuse to reconnect with some alumni too. Just before we go, I always like to ask the question, how can listeners connect with you and support you? You all are doing a lot in the running world, and we would just love to get people connected.
You know, probably the quickest and easiest way would be to go to runninganthropologist.com. And that's my blog site. I'll have links there to Team 413 and Galloway, as well as to logotherapy, which is kind of my training. And logotherapy is like the psychology, it's a pastoral psychology of finding purpose and making meaning in our lives. And it's really a great opportunity that I have to do that with runners and other people. So you can also find a link there to book and talk about logotherapy with me. The initial consultation is free. And of course, if you want to join Team 413, you can join that from anywhere and run with your local church community, or run with a group of Christian runners that you have there locally as part of the Galloway training program too. And Galloway does not only just train for Disney, but if you go to any major event around the country, you should see Galloway Run Walk runners. And it's a great way to train. So we'd welcome you to reach out and ask questions. Happy to help with anything you need around Galloway too.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciated getting the opportunity to get to know both of you. We just seem to have so many connections and similarities.
I love seeing couples and families that run together, and especially that you're training up your daughter to be in this run culture. So thank you again, Megan and Mark, for being with us on Eat, Pray, Run. And we hope that we cross paths with you in the future. Before we close, just wanted to share a few more details with you about our book, Walk, Run, Soar, which is a 52-week devotional and training journal designed for runners and walkers at any pace who long to experience God's presence in a deeper way as they pound the pavement or traverse the trails. Walk, Run, Soar gets you moving with a new motivation, knowing Jesus more every step of the way. And this book includes training plans, reflection questions, and even some space for journaling about your runs or walks. We also want to invite you to join our Glory Chasers Christian running group on Facebook, which includes free coaching, community, courage for runners and walkers at any pace. Check out the link in our show notes, or just hop over to dorinagilmore.com/running for details about the Facebook group and some of the other offerings that we have, especially for runners and walkers. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today for season 4, episode 3 of the Eat, Pray, Run podcast. We will be right back here next Wednesday to drop our next episode. I'm really excited about this conversation with my friend, Mary Yang. And we are talking all about discipleship, about food, faith, and fitness. Friends, let's chase God's glory together.